back. Because who really retires on the first time they say they retire outside of Andre Ward?
I think Shawn done. I think Shawn done. Yeah. Shout out my guy Alantez Fox sliding through. Appreciate you sliding through, bro.
What's going on?
I'm glad I finally caught up to you. I'm glad
I'm here, brother. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Here now.
Yeah, appreciate you sliding through, buddy. If y'all don't know, Alantez Fox, he got a fight coming up December 18th.
Yes, sir.
December 18th against David Morrell Jr. Alantez Fox brother just had a highly controversial fight, Michael Fox against Masquerade. He got a fight coming up against David Morrell Jr. So, the Fox family been, pretty busy lately, and good kind of busy. Certain T, I promote, good boxers, and especially my brother, black boxers. So I'm glad you came through this, John, brother, because you didn't have to come. So I appreciate you taking time out your day, sliding through here, and messing with your boy Southern T.
Nah, man, I appreciate you having me, though. It's a big thing. It's major for one black man to put on another black man. So I appreciate you having me on your show to, for me to promote myself on your platform. So I appreciate that, brother.
Appreciate you. You look, okay. You came in on the topic right now. We was talking about Kenny Porter, Shawn Porter, and the bullfight that just happened. How you feel about the stoppage of the fight? Like, how you feel about?
I mean, so this is my thing. If he started because he was saying, I haven't seen Shawn hurt like this before, not 2 times in a row like that before. I've seen him hurt before. I seen him get up. I never seen him. If that was your reasoning behind it, or if you gave reasoning like, he was getting called some shots that I knew he could. That from our preparation, I couldn't get him to stop getting called. I didn't want to see him get hurt any further. It'll be cool, but the way he stopped it, the way he said his reasoning for stopping it was terrible. He said, I knew I was going to stop this fight. I think that's what he said at the press conference. I knew I was going to stop this fight before it even happened. In the first part, he was like, I didn't respect his reasoning for stopping it at all. You know what I'm saying? That was a terrible stoppage, especially since I believe after they showed the cards, they said Shawn Porter was up. He had just won the 8th round. He wasn't up. He had just won the 8th round. You know what I'm saying? Prior to getting stopped. So you know what I'm saying? That was a terrible and awful stoppage, and even more awful reasoning. And so, I respect what Shawn did, saying I'm retiring, man. I'm retiring. And then he said, man, did you discuss it with your father? He said, yeah. I just told him right now. I'm telling him right now, I'm retiring. Just like he went off about him stopping the fight. He did what he thought was necessary.
Right. So does your father train y'all?
Yeah, my father trains me and my brother both.
Yeah. Go ahead. So he does.
Yeah.
So I knew that, but I want to make sure. So you are sons. You are sons fighting. Sons. Training. Your father is your trainer too, and you been in fights. Have you and your father ever had that conversation? If if he feel like you in too deep, or something like that. Is that something that y'all talk about? Have talking about before?
We have talked about it. We definitely talked about it. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, he understands my competitive nature. He's gonna say, look, man, it's been times I said, I realize if I stop the fight, you're going to, you might hate me for a little bit, but you're gonna understand why I stopped the fight. You're my son. At the end of the day, you're my son before anything else. Bottom line. And I mean, I've been in a fight where I think the fight in London against Liam Williams. He said, man, he thought I was about to stop the fight before you got put down. He said, but I ain't know we could just throw the towel in there.
Hold on.
He said, don't throw the towel in. But
mute your mic.
I was definitely in a situation where it could have been stopped, but it wasn't. He didn't stop it at that point in time, and I don't plan on being in those positions again.
Is it a difference, like losing on the card and losing by stoppage? Do you think? how you like with Shawn Porter? Do you feel like he gonna always be playing that moment in his head? Like, man, I wonder if, or do you think for a fighter you can let it go after time, or would you still be thinking about, man, I wonder what could have happened if I stayed in that a little bit longer, or do you just let it go? Or is it just something that you let go once you get to the house?
I can speak on me personally. No, I still haven't let that go, man. It eats at you. It's like, damn, man, I could have done better. I do realize, however, in that fight, I wasn't 100%. I wasn't 100% hydrated or anything like that, you know. And I mean, the guy also hit me with a damn elbow. So, you know, those type of things played the factor. And had I been able to, had I not been stopped, or had I not been stopped then, I probably got stopped later on in the fight. I wasn't really 100%. You know what I'm saying? So I replay it. I replay it in my mind. I think about it all the time. It motivates me. It drives me. You know what I'm saying? It's more fuel than anything. You know what I'm saying? You'll never forget that. You never want to be in that position ever again. There are people who've been stopped plenty of times. And look at the Shawn Porter, man. He has 4 losses. He only been stopped that one time, but he's been put down a couple times. You know, so it's like, you know, you either a fighter or you're not. You know, it's either on your heart or it's not. You know, that, like I said, my stoppage loss motivates me more than anything.
Now, to this point in your career, what fight would you say you learned the most from? And then, what fight would you say, like, say if somebody just wasn't familiar with you at all, what fight would you recommend them to go see the best defines you, you know, as a fighter?
So I think honestly, my first loss against Demetrius Andre, that really taught me something about myself more than anything. Like, you know, I went 12 rounds with this world champion. The bottom line is, no matter what he did, he couldn't stop me because I feel like I'm better than that, you know. But what I did, what it made me realize is we were so highly concentrated on using my jab and using my left hand in the camp that when I got into the ring, I was unable to, you know, capitalize on opportunities with my right hand. You know, and what I realized is, or what I learned from that fight is, you have to learn to be balanced with both hands, using both hands as much as you need to, you know, or when needed, you know, when necessary. So, I mean, at that point in time, I needed my right hand, but because I wasn't practicing it, I didn't use it. I said if I want anybody to that had no idea who I was, you know, to watch a fight, I think I want to watch one of my last fights against Marcos Hernandez. I feel like that's, you know, the beginning of the fight started off a little shaky, a little rocky, but the way I ended that fight is how boxing is supposed to look in my mind, and in my mind to everyone else. You know what I'm saying? That's how I can fight. I can fight like that all the time. And that's another thing I learned from that fight as well. What I learned from that fight is you're going to put into practice and on game day or on fight day what you practice in the camp. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely I've definitely worked on more boxing, more, you know, being more defensively sound and stuff like that to make sure that we don't have those first 4 rounds of a fight like that at any other time. You know, once I went back and I told my father about it, and we talked about it, we discussed it. I think initially he gave a little pushback, like, nah, that's not it. But you know, he realized what I was saying was the truth, and so now, I mean, I think we're an even better team now than we've ever been, or maybe, you know, than we've been in a long time.
Does having a mute it real quick. I think I hear the echo. Does having your father as your trainer? Because I was thinking about it with Shawn and Kenny, and I was thinking like maybe he retiring because just having a family and just having a kid, getting married, all that, maybe it put strain on the relationship. You know, because your father got to be tough on you in the gym sometimes, and sometimes when you get older, that can become combative. Like with Floyd and his pops. Do you feel like with you, does it ever put strain on your relationship, or is it only in camp, or does it carry over going home? Is it ever, you know, like a time where it's just like, man, like, you know, just frustrating?
mean, it's definitely frustrating with my dad. But
I'm asking for future fighters and anybody that's coming up, like how to handle that. Just the mindset.
It is. I mean, and then there are things. There are times where stuff in the gym carries over home, and some days you don't want to do that. Like I told my father a long time ago, man. When we make it big, and I get a big house and everything, I'm not gonna have my gym in my house because there's a separation. I want there to be a very clear and defining line between gym time and home time. Home time is my time of peace. Don't badger me about stuff we did in the gym. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, as a father, I don't think he can. He hears that, but it's like, man, whatever, bro. I'm gonna do it. If I want to tell you about it, I'm gonna tell you about it. And sometimes it puts a strain on our relationship because, like I said, we didn't define that line, so you bringing that into the gym. It's like, man, look, man, okay, all the jokes and shit about what happened at the gym. They don't need to carry outside here. You know what I'm saying? That ain't it. And we talk all the time, man. Him and I, they say we're a lot alike, so we fuss and fight, and we butt heads often. But the bottom line is, I think when we're good, we're an unstoppable team, an unstoppable force completely. My brother and him, they have a different dynamic than him and I because I guess I'm learning some of these things from my brother. My brother just has more patience with some of the antics, I want to say, that my father, goes through. Speaking on, if you're talking about Shawn and his father, I think I seen a meme earlier. It was like, Shawn retired, so because he didn't want to fire his father, and I can see that. I can see that because Kenny Porter is well known throughout the boxing universe, and it would be very hard for him to get any other training anywhere else. To me, you know what I'm saying? Like they gonna say, man, what you mean? You want to train with us, man? Is Kenny? I was Kenny with that. Is Kenny okay with that? And the bottom line is, Shawn had to say, look, bro, it's not about Kenny. It's about me. I'm trying to do my thing, but I don't think he wants to do that. I don't think he wants to make that separation. And if you never said, like him saying, I live right across the street from Shawn, that's not cool. I don't want to, live right across. I don't need you bothering me all the time. You're my dad and everything, and I love you. But when it's not boxing time, I need you to separate dad from coach. And I don't think any father really does that. Any father coach does that. It's hard. I don't think any father can separate being a father and being a coach. It's just you one and the same. It's really one job. And first and foremost, you're gonna be my father. You're never gonna just be my coach. You're always gonna be my dad. And even if I stop, even if you don't coach boxing ever again, you're still my father. Bottom line.
Do you think I think it was talk maybe a year or two ago with the WBC or one of the bodies, they was talking about possibly banning father, son, the coaching thing. Do you think that would be bad for the sport, or do you understand where they're coming from? Because they were saying a father may push their kid a little bit too hard. So one of the bodies, I want to say it was the WBC. It didn't go any further because it started getting a lot of backlash. But how do you think that would affect the sport, or do you think it would affect it in any way?
I think that would be terrible for the sport. Look at all of. There are a lot of father-son dynamics that work. I don't feel like my dynamic with my father. I don't feel like our coaching dynamic has failed completely yet. Not yet. It may never fail. Look at Danny Garcia and his father. There are so many. Like I said, there's so many father-son people. That just what's the guy who beat Bernard? He beat Bernard and Roy. He retired undefeated. I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but his father coached him. Kawasaki. There we go. Joe Kawasaki. His father coached him. He got to the top of the mountain. Retired undefeated, and the state. We haven't heard anything from Joe Kawasaki since then. Not about boxing, and I don't think any of that would help the sport. It doesn't do anything. I don't think it does anything for the sport. I don't think, I think it would just, it probably would make a lot of boxers quit. Look at Jerron Anderson, his father. And Jerron Anderson has older brothers who were also boxers. And they weren't as successful as Jerron, but Jerron got to learn from them, and now Jerron is well on his way to being a world champion. Incredible fighter. An incredible father-son dynamic and coaching.
Now, I hear a lot of fighters say they don't watch film, they don't watch boxing. Are you one of those guys that's really into the sport, or are you like, how Andrew Bynum said he played basketball,